Gold is still boring, but producers are salivating. We'll talk about that. Bitcoin at 55,000. Copper at $4 a pound. Who knew? We're going to talk about the state of Texas. Not the state of Texas, the state of Texas. We'll talk about the Capitol Police officers that have been suspended. We'll talk about the ones that are under investigation. We'll get into Roaring Kitty. We'll talk about privatization, regulation, and pennies. I am Gerardo Del Real, along with my co-host, Mr. Nick Hodge. This is episode 105, Nick, of Bizarro World. How the heck are you doing, Nick? It's been a week.
It's been one heck of a week. I've had it easier than you in Tejas, Gerardo. I'm sure we'll talk about it, and I'm doing good.
Let's get started with the markets. Gold again, we've gone on the record until real interest rates actually start trickling back down. You're not going to see a decisive move higher in gold. That has been proven true. We're sitting there right around the 1780 level. Silver, however, does seem to have some life to it. Every time it's pushed back, it seems to be leading higher right before gold turns. And so, we talked about it last week, silver being a commodity and gold trading like a currency. We explained the reason why that's happening. But look, the big action is in the copper space and in the Bitcoin space, right? Bitcoin at 55,000, copper at 405 a pound. A lot of people congratulating themselves for picking up the copper call 20 cents ago, which is hilarious to me. But look, as far as the portfolio goes, if you've been a contrarian and if you were buying the way we've been asking you to buy for the last year or two, you're a happy camper. There's a lot of stocks that have been doing absolutely nothing from $3 to $4 that all of a sudden magically, right when we get above that $4 level, are up 30% in the last couple of days, some higher. Thoughts on the copper space, Nick? And if you could share your penny story, actually, this is a perfect time for it.
Oh, yeah, it was a nickel, actually. So we'll get into it in a second. But I'll start with gold because we've been calling it for a while. Like you said, we talked about it on the podcast last week with the rates, and we were talking about why silver can go up and silver going down. And I was writing like 10% ago in gold bullion price terms that I was selling gold stocks because they were going to have trouble going up in the face of real rising rates. So it's taken the rest of the market a bit to figure that out, but that's exactly what's going on. And you had rates, I like the terminology, spike even higher this week to 1 point whatever we're at now, 3%. 1.3% on the 10 year, something like that this morning. And while that's still like historically relatively low yield, that's quite higher than it was like last August when gold was able to run to cycle highs, and not even cycle highs, all-time record highs. Right. And so until those rates stop rising, it's going to be a tough trade for gold. And it's getting closer, though, is what I would say, because like you say, the producers continue to produce gold at multi-year high prices. They're not all-time record high prices anymore, but producing gold at $1,800 an ounce is still good work if you can get it on most deposits or mines, right? And so as I see these reports come out, Agnico Eagle record revenue increases dividend, Newmont increases dividend, Barrick increases dividend, right? As I see these come out, then I start pulling up the charts. Let me look if it's time to buy. And then I pull up a chart of like, I don't know, what was I looking at? I think Newmont caught my eye this week, and I was thinking about buying some and pulled up the chart, and I was like, I don't know, man, with these. And I don't have it in front of me, but it was bouncing off like some support, some like 1 year support. And I'm not convinced it's going to hold it, the stock at Newmont I'm talking about. And that was here, let me just pull it up. And so I'm not talking bullshit to you guys. I think it was at like $56 or something. That's exactly right. So yeah, it could go down like another $4 to 52. And if it doesn't hold there, it could go to 50. And you know what? I think that would be like your gold buying opportunity. And you could see that over the next couple of months. So anyway, you asked me about copper. Yeah, I saw this week that a nickel is now worth less than the metal that's in it this week, right? It's something like 75% copper and 15% nickel. And with the price runs that those metals have had that you and I have been talking about, copper now at, I think, 9-year highs or something like that, the price of the metal in the nickel is worth more than 5 cents for any nickel made up to like 2014. And so you can take that and run with it a lot of ways. It obviously articulates the drastic recent price rise of copper and nickel, but it also speaks to inflation when commodities themselves are, outpacing the value of the metal that's in the currency. And so that was a bit of an eye opener this week for sure. Other than that, and I'm sure we'll get into Texas. I mean, we've been talking about, and we even joked last week about virtual power plants, if you remember. And then look what happened this week with the grid failure in Texas, and really just across the board, right? From the grid to natural gas plants,
just across the board,
to oil, to pipelines, to the gas stations you were just telling me about, to a nuclear plant that went down for a little bit, to the wind turbines freezing. It's like across the board. It was the epitome of what's wrong with the grid and what needs to be done.
Let me share my copper story before I get into Texas. The price of copper is up 4% today. It hit a high of, almost 410. It's the highest price since 2011 in a decade when it traded at 450 per pound. So here's my penny story and my copper story. A pre-1982 penny now has 2.5 cents worth of copper in it. And there's a lot of people out there, including Peter Schiff, who I noticed tweeted this out earlier. He thinks it'll be worth a nickel next year. So if you're looking
maybe the aliens want
maybe
nickels.
the alien. I was just gonna say it. You took my joke, Nick. If you're looking for something that old Mr. Schiff does believe in, pre-1982 penny, 2.5 cents worth of copper in it. A penny's a penny if you can find it. That's a heck of a return. And so, that I think tells you how quickly the movements are happening. Before I get into Texas, we have to talk the uranium space as well, because although the spot price hasn't moved an inch, oh man, the uranium stocks are ramping up, right? We talked about, fission uranium, which has a 52-week low of 10 cents. It hit a 52-week high this week of 64 cents. I could go down the list. Sky Harbor Resources, 52-week low of 8 cents, 52-week high recently of 36. UEC, Energy Fuels, companies that we were highlighting when nobody cared. All of a sudden, everybody cares. The same thing is happening in the copper space. Regulus, which we talked about last week, is up 20% here in the past week or two. Cucho Copper, which we talked about last week, is hitting 52-week highs again today. So listen, and apologies, not 52-week highs, week highs. It's at 65 cents as I speak, Canadian. The time to buy is when no one is looking. In the gold space, which seems so boring right now, with producers making money hand over fist, a lot of producers having, $700 to $800 margins for every ounce of gold sold. Those balance sheets look healthy to me. And if you know anything about the way gold cycles work, all you have to do is transpose the reserves that the major gold companies have and see the trend lower, and then the profits and see trend higher. And you should be able to deduce that you're going to see some M&A coming at a pretty premium. And I think that'll start up here soon. And I think that's going to help ignite a resurgence of gold speculators. That's what I think. I think anytime that you see, a company like a Probe Metals that I think will get taken out. If they're taken out at a 50% premium, well, everything in that area gets hot all of a sudden, right? And it's not just going to happen in that part of the world. It's going to have to happen everywhere if these gold producers will continue to be gold producers, which that's what they do. So you figure it out, right?
That's it. And there's only so many, just like copper, right? We were talking about it last week with you want to be buying the copper stocks instead of trading in the copper at the scrapyard. It's time to be buying the gold stocks again. And there's only so many quality deposits that are in the right part of the Lassonde curve, in the right part of the world, that are have economics tied to them, and that don't have like community issues and such. I mean, you know the drill, Gerardo, but we got to keep talking about it because the time is here. The reserves need to be replaced, and there's not a lot of quality projects waiting in the wings, and so the high quality ones are going to get taken out. And what do we say? Those with the best share structures that have been run the best over the past couple of years are going to be the ones that whatever get the highest premiums, or the shareholders are gonna work out the best for shareholders. And so those are ones that I've been looking at and writing about and frankly buying recently.
So I'll share some copper names, get you your money back. Guarantee here that we always provide at Bizarro World. Chicana copper still looks extremely attractive to me at these levels. It hasn't really run despite copper surge higher and some excellent drill results. It just topped off its treasury, which currently stands at just over 9 million. It's expanded its drill program. A second rig is on site. They seem to have the structural controls down. They will continue to hit, I suspect. And you have a maiden resource estimate now estimated for Q3 because of the success with the drill bit. If you want an out-of-the-way one that is just an absolute bargain, I'm biased. I always am. I own it. I own a lot of it. It's Abacus Mining. Trades at 13 cents. It's a market cap sub 10 million Canadian. Has a gold project it's drilling. Has a very prospective project in Nevada called Willow that it will be drilling within the next 2 months. And oh, by the way, it's carried all the way through to production with a 20% interest in the giant copper gold Ajax project, which all of a sudden has some traction again. If that project does move forward and the First Nations group that was opposed to it comes back to the table in a meaningful way and indicates support, Abacus is one of those names that can go from 10 cents to $1 very, very quickly in this price environment. So those are some names for you to do some due diligence on. Gold names, look at Revival Gold and look at Midas Gold, the Idaho companies. They are getting zero love during this pullback. You should be loving them unless you just want to buy a stock that goes up tomorrow. I don't do that. So you're going to have to talk to my friend, Mr. Hodge, about that. You've had a really good track record with it. How's your rare earth play doing, Mr. Hodge?
You just buy it and then it goes up and you sell it when it stops going up, Gerardo. It's pretty easy.
Get in the game, bro.
And just for the record, while I do love Midas Gold as well, we're now buying Perpetua Resources.
I'll be interviewing Miss Laurel Sayer, the new CEO, and I will introduce her as the new CEO of Midas Gold.
Nice. I like it.
I won't. Out of respect, I just don't like the name.
Yeah, but you asked about rare earths. I mean, you know much more about rare earths than I do. But
you're the one making the money with them.
I can see when the stocks are going up. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I recommend. Neo Materials yesterday at 1560. Oh, it's at 1615 today. Yeah, they go up. It was. Well, I don't know, Jordan. We were staring into the abyss yesterday. The Dow was down 100 points there for a bit.
The abyss. How's the MP Materials thing going that you got in at $13 a few months ago?
What are we at, $40 now? Oh, 45. Look at that.
I'm still good. I put a smile on your face. How about Medallion, which I think you wrote a check for at 10 cents 4 months ago or so?
That hit like 60 cents this week, and they got a deal or at least signed exclusive rights, non-coal rights to separate some REEs with a new process that came out of a university. And so, yeah, that would hit a high of 71 cents, it looks like. So that is also good work if you can get it. Yeah, look, I don't know. I just see things going up and have been trying to pick the right ones. And these narratives that we've been talking about for a long time are now being borne out with numbers in the real world. I mean, again, you can talk about rare earths more than me, but the old narrative of China, limiting rare earth exports is back in the news. Biden ordering a review of the supply chain for said rare earth element components that are needed not just for defense, which the China is specifically targeting. Let's not mince words there. They wanted to hinder the U.S. defense supply chain, but also critical for green technologies or clean technologies, everything from batteries to windmills to solar panels and other grid components. And so anyway, it's all popping off, right, Gerardo?
It's all popping off, and you may think I know more about rare earths, but my favorite rare earth play, Leading Edge Materials, is one of the few that hasn't moved. So you guys are getting a lot of free names today. That won't always be the case, but you should be looking at Leading Edge Materials. It has a significant rare earth asset in Europe. It also has the Wachsner graphite plant, which is able to produce, is being fitted for hot battery grade graphite. Prices in both are surging, and so I think it's only a matter of time before someone catches on there. Let's get right to it. Let's talk Texas. Look, it's been a week. Let me start by saying I'm incredibly thankful and fortunate to the universe, because me living just outside of Austin, I've had the good fortune to have running water and gasoline in my truck and heat and power that's been uninterrupted. Let me be clear to everyone out there that I am the exception. I've had friends and acquaintances that have been in their vehicles because the weather hit a low of 8 degrees earlier this week here, was below freezing for most of the week. And, in some parts of Texas, the wind chill forced the temperature to drop. It felt like below zero weather. And so it's been a week. And let me, for those of you that are just now, coming around to the story, let me be clear about what's happening here where I live. The gas stations are out of gasoline. I was lucky to be able to fill up before all this had happened. The stores have lines for food. People are lined up for food in freezing temperatures for miles, 1.5 to 2 miles. And even when you get inside the store, even the better stores, and there's been some great corporate, just altruism is the word. Stores like H-E-B. H-E-B is like the major supermarket here that's privately owned in Texas. And man, they had, food that was expiring and food that was days away from going bad. And they said, just take it. Like, the power is out. It's going to go bad anyway. Take whatever you can get, people, and keep it cold on your own. They've done a phenomenal job. There's a place called Veracruz Tacos, which is one of our favorite taco places that just, went 24 hours a day and decided they were going to give away as much food as they could to people that were hungry. And if you've been to downtown Austin, there's a large homeless population that, it wasn't just them this time around that were hungry. There were people that had zero power, zero food, nowhere to go. And that might have been the difference for a lot of people. So, back to the situation here. At a time where the energy grid, it's a private energy grid here in the state of Texas, completely failed. And people have been without power for 3 or 4 days. I've had friends come over. I was sharing this with Nick off air, come over and hadn't showered for a few days, frozen water pipes, just come over, use the shower and have a warm dinner and, get back to it. There's so much pain and unnecessary suffering that's happening right now. And let's be absolutely clear about why it's happening. It's happening because of neglect. Nobody should be able to justify how the most prosperous state in the union, the most energy independent state in the union, has their energy grid fail. There is a report from the agency that is in charge that said they had to turn off the grid because they were within minutes of the outages being outages that would have lasted for months. Think about that for a second. And so it really, forget dumb fucking Ted Cruz going to Cancun in the middle of it. I don't want to get into that because that's an easy point to make. Yes, you're an elected official. Yes, you're an idiot. Yes, instead of responding and for all the backlash that AOC gets from one side of the political spectrum, she raised $2 million while Ted Cruz was sipping martinis. And 100% of it is going to people that need it. So save the political thing to me. This is specific to Ted Cruz. Fuck Ted Cruz. But for people to take what happened with the energy grid and politicize it immediately before bodies have even thawed out. There's an 11-year-old boy that turned up dead this morning because he was in his mobile home without power for the last 3 days. There was a mom and a young girl that died because they were sleeping in their car and had the car facing the garage, and they weren't aware of carbon monoxide poisoning because they were trying to keep warm. So the bodies literally aren't even thawed out yet. Nobody's even gotten to these people because the roads were frozen like a skating rink. You couldn't drive. I lived in Alaska for 17 years. I spent my childhood in Chicago. I couldn't drive the roads. I couldn't get out of my neighborhood for 2 days because the roads were so bad. We don't have plow trucks here. We don't have, all the things that you have in Alaska and Chicago with, trucks coming through and laying the salt down. So people were literally trapped in their homes, in their apartments. There were water pipes that are bursting, and you have apartment complexes where the ceilings are just coming down from top to bottom. And people want to get on Twitter and on the news. Even our Governor Abbott, went on and took the opportunity the third day of this crisis, where friends that I know had going the third day without a shower and power, and he wants to get on Fox News and go blame the Green New Deal. Let's be factual about this. Both sides, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, whatever it is, let's take a factual approach to what the solution is, or this will happen again, because we've been warned in Texas that we needed to winterize the energy grid. So let's be clear about what happened. 28,000 megawatts of thermal plant outages, mostly gas. Nearly half of the state's natural gas production came offline because of the low temperatures. There were freezing components at natural gas-fired power plants, and it forced operators to shut them down. Wind turbine freeze-ups were the least significant factor. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from the Electric Reliability Council of Texas that runs the state's power grid. The main factors in their report: frozen instruments at natural gas, coal, and even nuclear facilities, as well as limited supplies of natural gas. Natural gas pressure, in particular, is one reason that power is coming back slower than expected Tuesday. First world problems for me. My second home had been without power and heat for 5 days. It just came on yesterday. There were people living in their homes that haven't had and still don't have power, though it's starting to come back, for a full week. So look, there's wind turbines that operate in Antarctica. There's gas wells that work well in Alaska. You can weatherize any technology to function. So do it. We're the most prosperous state in the union. And my dumbass goes on Twitter, and I got to see with the best thing people can come up with on the left is to criticize Joe Rogan and try to make him the poster child for deregulation, because he said one of the reasons he moved here was he wanted more freedoms and less regulation. Guess what? Less regulation is good. It just has to be smart and practical. And by God, yes, factual, everybody. I am so over the partisan conversations that happen around everything with a total disregard for facts. And it really gets me going when it comes from people that know better, which is why I dislike Ted Cruz so much, amongst other reasons. But it really upsets me when I see somebody from the Wall Street Journal write some bullshit article about why renewables aren't the solution for Texas. We can chew gum, walk, spit, and do a couple of other things out here, everybody. We don't have to just do wind turbines or solar or natural gas. It should be a combination of everything, and nuclear should absolutely play a part in it. Go ask Japan. But if we're going to do better as a society, and we have to do better as a society because people are dying and suffering unnecessarily because of ignorance and partisan attacks and the politicization of every issue that comes up. And it has to change. It has to change. This can't continue. Do people think the people that froze were just Democrats? Or do you think the energy grid just rolled out and blacked out in Republican neighborhoods? Of course not. Mother Nature doesn't care, just like a virus doesn't care. It's time to grow up for those of you out there that still don't get it. Sorry.
No, it was a heck of a rant, and it was much needed, and I can't really top that. Try to follow it up. In Portland, kudos to HEB, because in Portland they're arresting people for getting food out of dumpsters, expired food that the grocery stores had thrown away. I don't know if you had a second to catch that story this week. So quite different from letting people just take the food from the grocery stores. But as far as the politicization, it's not a new story. I mean, it's been probably 10 years since I've been writing about the no silver bullet energy, right? It's a all of the above approach. And you get political factions that are beholden to their respective lobbying groups or the industries that help fund their campaigns, and then you get a stark divide and finger pointing in both directions when it's all politicians, or more succinctly government, that's to blame. It was, I think, Krugman writing and tweeting about this week that there was no villain in this situation. Well, no, the villain was the government and the bureaucrats and the officials that kick the can down the road, just like they do with many problems that they don't want to spend money on that actually have real net benefits and improve the way of life and the quality of life for everyday constituents. And so, the point I was making this week was we got enough money to buy $120 billion worth of bonds every month, right? We got enough money to pass a new $1.9 trillion stimulus, where only a small percentage of it ends up in the stimulus hands. And we've got a Federal Reserve Chairman who can go on national television and say that we have the ability to create money digitally. Yes, we just print it, we create it. Why can't we just create money to winterize the grid, for example? And then that's the grid side of things. And then you get the climate change side of things where, once a century of freeze events in Texas are very indicative of climate change and the more drastic weather cycles.
Oh, you said climate change. You must be a greenie.
That we're seeing, whether that's a record hurricane storm in the Atlantic, or the ferocity of the winds of the cyclones in the Pacific, or the Arctic blasts that now reach all the way into southern Texas at negative wind chills. And so, yeah.
Snow in Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. I saw that. Yeah. Israel was covered in snow this week. Exactly right. And so this money, I think people are realizing more and more, needs to go to real world solutions to the problems that we're facing as a country, and not to propping up a financial system that only enriches a select few, right? And it's all related, and sorry to reduce it back to a fourth turning, but the response to these challenges is what makes or crystallizes the fourth turning. And so the challenge is part A, right? And then part B is, okay, now what are we going to do about it? And that's what I'm very interested to see. You and I have talked about, well, I think we're going to see an infrastructure bill passed, and we're going to overhaul the grid, and we're going to rebuild the bridges. And I'm interested to see if we have the political will as a country to get it done.
Again, if this doesn't do it, I don't know what will. I wrote a piece for Resource Stock Digest earlier this week, or maybe it was Daily Profit Cycle, go to both, talking about 911. Our 911 system is broken. CNBC had an article out saying that the 911 system is broken. And so the cost of overhauling it is $15 billion. And that would save more than 10,000 lives And get this, for those of you that don't care about lives, like I wrote in the piece, it would save $97 billion per year. Per year. It seems like common sense. Meanwhile, you got, unemployment claims that, again, we're almost at 1 million new unemployment claims. This isn't hard to figure out, people. Let's put it together. Let's do better. For a lot of you out there that are turning this thing into a way to score political points, do better. And like I said earlier in the week, those weren't the first two words that I had for you. But I'm going to try to keep using those, and we'll leave it there. I think we gave everyone a lot of names. There's a lot to do. I still have people to check up on my end of it, Nick. And so I think it's a good ending point. Let's be better people, everyone. Let's be better humans. There's a lot of humanity that was shown this week. A lot of people did some really good work out here in Texas. I didn't stop to ask any of them if they supported police or if they voted for Trump or if they voted for Biden or if they liked Mexicans. I don't care. They were out there doing some good things. I was happy to see it. Let's do more of that. Let's be more of that. Let's help take care of each other and just be a better people, man.
Like it.
I'm Gerardo Del Real. This was episode 105 of Bizarro World. Mr. Co-host, Mr. Nick Hodge, you want to send him off?
See ya.